privilege and opportunity to introduce a great West Virginian, a dedicated public servant, a fellow Eagle Scout, and a fellow service member. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Mac Warner.
Thanks to Matt, Larry, Tommy, Jeff, Larry, the Executive Council Committee. Just what a wonderful job you've done setting this up. And also to our wonderful people who are serving. What a tremendous presentation. If you would join me in a round of applause for people that set this up. In 1899, Robert Baden-Powell was asked to go to South Africa to defend British interests, and he chose the town of Mafeking as his base of operations. He was supposed to raise 2 regiments there. They were already had one Boer War and was expecting a second. And as he did so, he became a national hero because of his efforts there. You see, it wasn't so important that Mafeking was defended, but the people that were there. His second in command, Lord Cecil Edwards, was the Prime Minister's son. Winston Churchill's aunt, Lady Sarah Wilson, was there. She was actually captured at one point during the war, the Second Boer War, and was exchanged for a Boer general in a prisoner exchange. But when he returned to England as a national hero and set up at Brown-at-Sea Island what would become the Boy Scouts, he attributed the success at Mafeking. It was a 217-day siege that they endured. He attributed the success to the Mafeking Cadet Corps. And if I could have the slide there, please. It was a group of boys, 12 to 15 years old, young men, who took the place of soldiers to do some of the administrative work, run the errands, tend to wounded, deliver the mail, and so forth, so that the men could be put out on the perimeter and actually defend Mafeking. That was the beginning of the Boy Scouts. He decided that it was proper for young men to be raised with a sense of chivalry, with a sense of duty, a civic engagement. And that was the founding of our Boy Scouts. Well, 10 years after that, back here in West Virginia, a young man named Charlie Warner, grandson of German immigrants, went off to fight in Germany in World War I. He came back to West Virginia and actually became the administrator of the Mountain State Memorial Hospital, just about halfway between here and the state capitol, where there was a doctor, Dr. Cavender, who's on here, Jack. And Dr. Cavender eventually ended up birthing the 6 sons of Bud and Margie Warner. And he was the first of several who spanked my bottom necessarily, you know, to get life started. But Charlie Warner had fought in the First World War. Bud Warner fought in the Second World War. And he married Margaret McCoy, who was a member of the Daughter of American Revolution. So you can see the military tradition in that family. And they realized the importance of what Baden-Powell had set up in the Boy Scouting. And so they ensured that their sons got enlisted in the local Boy Scout Troop 5 at First Presby, and others of us at Troop 201 in Ruffner Memorial Church, just across the street from the state capitol. Well, Buffy was the first, and several of you in this auditorium probably remember Buffy. And Buffy rose to the exalted rank of tenderfoot. Yeah, and if you knew Buffy, you were probably surprised that he made it as far as tenderfoot. The second, Casey realized Mom's disappointment that Buffy kind of checked out early in the scouting effort, and so Casey took it pretty seriously, and he got to the rank of life, pretty good, just a merit badge or 2 away from Eagle. But he met the demise that many young aspiring Boy Scouts have run into, and that was members of the opposite sex. And unfortunately, there is no merit badge for courtship. He met Joni Son from up on Fort Hill, and the love of his life. And so he never made that 21st merit badge. And so, again, much to Mom's chagrin, I learned the lessons that the older brothers, and I was determined to make Eagle Scout. And sure enough, in 1972, I achieved that rank. And then the 4th brother, Monty, achieved it the following year. The 5th brother, Chris, achieved it. And then the 6th son made it as well. So 4 Eagle Scouts, a life, and a tenderfoot. The things that we learned in scouting were also important. And I remember being a little bit cheated when I earned that rank of Eagle and got to pin on that beautiful pin. What a glorious pin that you worked so hard for. But shortly after pinning it on, I traded uniforms from the Boy Scout uniform to a U.S. Army uniform. And I always felt a little disappointed that I didn't get to wear that badge very often. But I learned so much more from just the scouting experience. I learned by watching my mom. You see, my mom was the one that was so dedicated. She ensured she drove us down every Monday night to those troop meetings at Ruffner Church. It was about a 25-minute drive off the hill to come down and drop us off. Then she'd turn around a half hour later, turn around, come down and pick us back up year after year after year. She ensured that we went to Dilly's Mill to the summer camp. She ensured that she scrunched the pennies together and got us to Philmont. Every one of us was able to get to Philmont at some point in our life. You see, Philmont was the Super Bowl of scouting at the time. And so that was my upbringing, and the importance of Eagle Scout hit me a number of years later. I'd spent 5 years in Afghanistan. I decided it was time to come home to West Virginia and apply my talents to helping out here in the state of West Virginia. And I was on the phone from Camp Gibson in Afghanistan when I called Bill Cole, who was running for governor at the time in 2016. And as I made that call, a cobra slithered right across the tip end of my boots, and then a baby cobra followed on suit. But I was determined to make this call, and I placed it, and Bill said yes, he'd love to have me run on the ticket with him and as Secretary of State. And so I made it a point, when I first came back to the West Virginia, I headed right to the Capitol to meet Bill Cole for the first time. And as I walked into his office, here he was, a successful businessman, a car dealer. He had been elected to the state Senate. His peers had picked him to lead as the Senate president, the lieutenant governor of the state of West Virginia. And when I walked into his office, the first thing I saw was what? His Boy Scout uniform framed on the wall with his Eagle Scout pin, so proudly displayed. Of all of his accomplishments, the things he wanted people to notice first when he walked in that door was he was an Eagle Scout. Well, that was quite impressive to me. What is it about scouting? What is it about being an Eagle Scout that is so leaves such a lasting impression on people that people are so proud of? Well, you heard Marty and Larry talk about it, and that's that oath, okay? On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and country, to obey the Scout laws, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. What's the beginning of that? On my honor. Right there, that word, right at the beginning, integrity, trustworthiness. Stephen Covey, in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, talks about the importance of integrity, of honor, because you got to get yourself squared away before you step into the public arena. If you don't, your words and actions don't match, and the people won't follow. You have to have yourself squared away before you start trying to lead anywhere else in business or any other organization. Then the Scout laws. The Scout is trustworthy. There's that word again. Trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. Marty said it. If you live that kind of life, you're going to be one hell of an individual. And don't we need more of that these days? So that concept of honor and integrity stuck with me. It was no big deal then to take that being sworn in on the plane at West Point, or to take my commissioning oath to defend and protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, to take those marriage vows, to adhere to the honor code at West Point, to be on the honor committee at West Point. A cadet will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. To attend the University of Virginia, where they too have an honor code. In every examination, you say, on my honor as a student, I have neither given nor received aid on this examination, facing the possibility of expulsion for violating that. But it's the motto, again, that Marty referred to that I want to talk about today. Be prepared. I want to use a couple examples. As I was asked to speak here, they said, please talk about your families, the relevance of scouting to your family. So the most poignant moment of my life, of my adult life, of my parenting life, was on November 1st of 2009. My son, Stephen, had graduated from West Point less than a year and a half before. He had received orders for combat deployment into Afghanistan. Knowing that he wouldn't be there for the holidays, we decided to have a unique weekend. On Friday night, we celebrated Halloween. On Saturday night, we celebrated Thanksgiving with turkey dinner. And on Sunday morning, we celebrated Christmas, opening Christmas presents. That afternoon, it was time for him to leave. He hugged his brother, his 2 sisters, and his mother goodbye, and stepped out onto our front porch. I stepped out there with him to say a final farewell. And as we did, I gave him a hug, and he picked up his duffel bag and started heading for the car. At that moment, you can imagine the thoughts that started racing through my mind. Some regret, some remorse, some questioning. Had I done everything I possibly could to prepare that young man for what he was about to face? Well, a bit of angst set over me, and then all of a sudden a calmness came. and I thought of three things. The first thing that I thought was scouting. The second was sports, and the third was soldiering. Scouts, he had been an Eagle Scout. I'd taken him to Philmont. He had learned how to pack a backpack. He had learned how to hike. He had learned how to lead. Sports, he had been a captain of a team, played lacrosse, played football. He had taken a hit and learned how to get back up and keep on fighting. And then soldiering, he had gone to the finest institution in the history of the world, United States Military Academy at West Point, to become a leader. He had passed there with flying colors, and all of a sudden that calmness allowed me to fake a smile and wave goodbye to him, saying, yes, we probably had done about all that we could, not knowing whether I'd ever see him again. Well, sure enough, he got to Afghanistan, and 11 days in country, his unit was hit, his platoon was hit. And he was hit again himself 5 months later on April 22nd. Every April 22nd, we celebrate Stephen is Alive Day in the Warner family. 3 of his classmates did not survive their engagements. One of them, if you could turn the slide to Sal Korma, please. This weekend is Memorial Day. I want you to remember Sal Korma on this weekend. You see, at West Point, they put you through a number of things, and while you're going through it, sometimes you think it's petty or a little bit trivial. You see, they'll put you in a situation you can't win. They'll put you in a situation that you're challenged beyond measure. They'll give you a pugil stick and tell you to get to the other side of the pit. But between you and the other side of the pit is a guy with a pugil stick being told you're not to let him to go through. Or they'll put you in a boxing ring, and they score you on the number of hits you give to somebody in the face. Well, the idea is, can you take that punch and get back up? Can you still make it to math class following that and successfully complete the academics after having been through boxing class? Well, Sal Korma met a situation, all right? It's called a choke point. On his tour of duty, he went into one of those situations where he couldn't back away from it. His platoon sergeant had noticed a piece of disturbed soil in front of him. It was at a bridge. You see, it's a choke point. You can't go across the river. You have to cross that bridge. The Taliban knows that. We know it. And you know that there's going to be a problem. So Sal, leading by example, doing what every soldier or leader would do, don't ask your men to do something that you won't do yourself. Sal himself picked up the VS-17, the orange triangle, to go out and mark the place so that the civilians would not hit the IED. His troops wouldn't hit the IED. Unfortunately, he took a different path than the sergeant did, who had initially found it, and he stepped on the concussion plate, the compression plate, that closed the circuit, setting off the detonation that killed him immediately. Let me go to the next slide. I want to give you a taste of just what that is all about. My son Stephen, his unit himself, found, hold a second, don't hit the plate quite yet. Well, go ahead. We'll let it play. Due to the word language that was used, I cut out the sound, but this is Stephen's unit. That's what an IED looks like when it's not found in time and somebody hits it. You can see the power of that explosion. Stephen's unit found 53. Well, they encountered 53. They found 45 before the detonation went off. 8 were detonated against him or his troops. I wear this little band right here. This is a piece of the command wire that is used. It's used on those 8 that they didn't find in time. You see, when you get inside that blasting radius, you may not even come upon the IED yet, and somebody on the other end of that wire sets off the explosion. That's what got Stephen on April 22nd. But let's go on to the next slide. Chase Presnixy. You see, at West Point, you have these things called clothing formations, in addition to the other examples I gave. A clothing formation on that first day, you go through and you get all your uniforms. You may get a half dozen sets of different uniforms, and they have you out in a ridiculous-looking PT outfit one of those first days, and they say, okay, now we're going to go up there and we're going to get you into your class uniform. You have 3 minutes, go. They blow a whistle and off you go. Well, you can't get dressed in a class uniform in 3 minutes, especially when you've never done that before. You come back down, some guys are in black shirts, some are in white, in all kinds of different, it could be on America's Funniest Videos when you show back up in that formation. They tell you, obviously, you had failed, and they bring somebody out who's in a sparkling dressed white uniform and gray pants, and he's all squared away, and they say, that's what you're supposed to look like. Now go again. In 3 minutes, up and back, and you come back, and you don't have your shoes tied and everything else. And they keep at it. They say, we're going to do this till we get it right. Well, you better believe that evening you start putting your stuff together. You get your stuff squared away. And so by the third or fourth day of this, you've set all your uniforms out. You have your everything squared away, your brass on straight and everything else. Well, sometimes life doesn't give you a second chance. And that's what happened to Chase Prasnicki. Chase Prasnicki graduated in 2010. He went to Afghanistan much like Steve. In fact, he was in the same unit Stephen was, 173rd Airborne, out of Bamberg, Germany. His third day in country, his first assignment, his first roll outside the wire, they hit him with a command-detonated IED, and Chase didn't survive. Let me play for you what his mom and what his dad had to say.
He gave everything he had into every play he did, whether it was a practice or a game. The thing that I miss the most about Chase is his heart and his passion.
He just lived life to his fullest, and you know, if there's any advice to anybody, you know, that's it. Just take advantage of every second of every day that you're on this planet and try and make it better.
Sounds like the Scout slogan, doesn't it? Do a good turn daily. That's how Chase lived his life. Remember him this Memorial Day weekend as well. Another encounter that my son had was a situation that I'm sure he has trouble sleeping at night, recounting this situation. You see, he was given the mission to assist a military police mission that was given to go to Shark, the town of Shark in Logar Province, Afghanistan, where a suspected IED had been planted in the town square where people go to do their shopping, women and children being exposed to the explosive force of an IED. A specialist, Kendra Coleman, got to the corner of the building to look at where the IED was placed. They set off a command-detonated IED. I visited Kendra Coleman at Walter Reed Medical Hospital to ask her what she recalled from that day. My son was no further from me to Pat away from Kendra when the explosion went off, and Kendra looked up at me and she said, "Mr. Warner, the last thing I remember was my kneecap flying in front of my face." That's a tough way to live your life. Well, my son, immediately being the platoon leader, took charge of the situation, put out perimeter, called in the helicopter, the medevac. When they popped smoke to show the helicopter where to land, it set off a brush fire. This was a bad day, getting worse. Well, no one expected her to live. Stephen said when the litter took off up underneath that helicopter, it was spinning so fast, he said, "Dad, it would have knocked any man out." And here was a woman who had just had her leg blown off. Nobody expected her to survive, but you can see the picture she did because of the quick reaction. Well, now the situation, it turned dark. It was getting nighttime. And remember what I said about choke points? This town was full of them. They could not go back the same way they left, or they came. Stephen had to lead his 25 men through a route through the darkness, through uncharted territory in Afghanistan back to their base camp, over a mile away, through hostile territory where they knew Taliban were in place. Where did he learn those skills? Where did he get that confidence, that decision-making capability? Scouting, Philmont. He had learned what to pack, how to pack it. You see, I asked him about that day, and he said, "Dad, we learned early on after that first hit. Before we left, everybody put on 4 tourniquets, one on each arm, one on each leg." I said, "Wow, why?" He said, "Dad, if you hit that IED and you lose an arm, it's hard to put a tourniquet on with just one hand." He said, "Dad, if you're knocked unconscious like I was, it's mighty nice to have somebody there to cut off the bleeding for you where the tourniquets are already in place. It's that magical moment, that magical hour to get you back that saves lives like Kendra Coleman's." Folks, that is being prepared. Where did he learn it? You know where he learned it. Folks, when I spent my time in Afghanistan, I had those moments. We had an attack on our compound at Camp Gibson. 6 guards were killed, 12 more were injured, wounded. But it wasn't that moment. That was a reactionary moment for me. The most trying moment for me was when I was out in the middle of Afghanistan. I was the only American off the base. I was setting up a rule of law in the town of Bamiyan. A burnt Koran was found, and Afghans all over the country were up in arms and revolting and rebelling against the Americans in their presence. A mob gathered in the town of Bamiyan, and they started moving towards the facility where I was, and the guards told me that I should take cover. I thought of Ambassador Chris Stevens. I thought about a safe room, but I knew what they had done in that safe room. They had poured diesel in and set it afire. That's not a way I envisioned going. I wanted a fighting chance. I used what I had done before, and that was being prepared. I'd set a rope up on top of the building, tying knots that I learned where in scouting, and I had mapped out my escape route down through some local fields, down a riverbed, up to caves where I'd worked with some people and providing some relief aid. I had it planned out, so at least I knew I would have a fighting chance. Well, my daughter also decided to go into the military, Lisa. She decided to do it at West Point, and like Kathy, she didn't have the chance to go into scouting. But man, I said, I want to get her to Philmont one way or another. I called Katy, Texas, got with an Explorer troop. We hooked up with them, and I got my daughter to Philmont. She had that experience of the hiking, the packing, the endurance to make a trek. And sure enough, she successfully graduated from West Point. She too did his combat tour in Afghanistan. My son Scott got him to Philmont. Scott's already had one overseas duty. 2 weeks from now, he's deploying back to the Middle East. Scouting prepared us for what we were to face in the real world. How many times have I mentioned Philmont today? You could count them more than a half dozen. What did Philmont mean to me? Well, folks, I'm happy to tell you today, it isn't Philmont that's ground zero for scouting. It's the Summit Bechtel Reserve right here in West by God, Virginia. And so many of you, yes. So many of you in this room were responsible for having scouting decide on West Virginia to be the center of scouting, not just for West Virginia, not just for the United States, but for the world. The facilities we have there, no doubt, are world class. The world's largest Slide for Life, the world's largest outdoor climbing facility, skate park, BMX, rifle, shotgun, archery ranges. It's beyond belief. Those of you who've been there, you understand it. If you haven't, find a way to get there and take a look at it. It is a fantastic facility. Think of what Philmont meant to me and my family. This is what it's going to, West Virginia is now going to be that for scouts throughout the world. What the Bechtel Scout Reservation is to scouting is what Olympics is to sports. It is the place to go, and we're going to have people coming back again and again and again. And it's because of what you guys have done right here at this table in bringing that facility to this great state. Folks, the Eagle Scout badge, the ability to wear that was short-lived, but the lessons learned in scouting last a lifetime. It's the very foundation for personal growth, for family, for business, for politics, for any organization. You learn leadership as a scout. Now, many of you know that I have 4 children, and I've mentioned 3 of them. How about that 4th, Krista? She's the rock star of the family. She didn't go to West Point. She didn't go to Philmont. But man, just like Kathy, she was that scout. She's a good scouter. She's had her overseas tour, not in military orders, but as a volunteer in a civil society program. She's been to Lebanon, to Jordan, lived by herself on the Iraqi border. She chose her own path in life, not West Point. She went to the University of Virginia. She's majored in biomedical engineering. She's a physician's assistant today. She went to Wake Forest. She lives up in Anchorage, Alaska. When they call her out on duty and she flies out to a remote location to deal with Native Americans, she is the 911 call center. She's saving lives. She's helping people in their quality of life every day. She is our family's rock star. You know, she also joined the Army Reserve. And of all the family of these West Pointers, you know who the highest ranking member of the Warner family is today? It's Krista. It's Krista. Folks, we're here to honor Marty and Kathy Becker. They embody everything we've been talking about today. They're the bulwarks protecting our society today. We talk about the society, we're splintered, we're polarized, and that's why I'm so emboldened by the presence, to seeing the people in this room and what you all mean to the scouting movement. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin was up at West Point this last week and speaking to the graduating class, and he said, "You are going to see things that we've never seen before." No doubt he was thinking about cybersecurity, cyber attacks, cyber warfare, Space Command. The high ground is no longer a hill, piece of terrain, it's space, okay? That's what he was talking about. He said, we don't get a chance to choose the times that we live in, but we get a chance to shape the times that we live in, and that's exactly what these individuals are doing right up here. They are shaping the times that we live in and securing our future generations with the spirit, the laws, the oath, the motto, the slogans of Boy Scouts to prepare us for the days of the future. Folks, I know my mom's up there in heaven somewhere smiling, saying, yeah, all that effort I put into it's finally paying off some 50 years later. But Robert Baden-Powell is up there smiling at each and every one of you because his vision for giving a life of chivalry, of service, of duty to the youth in England has now spread worldwide, and the center of it is right here in West Virginia because of the jobs you are doing. Folks, I salute you for that wonderful job you've done. Keep it up. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk with you. Thank you so much.